Jack is in California. Hi, Jack. Welcome to the Ramsey Show.
Hey, Dave. How's it going?
Better than I deserve. How can we help?
So I wanted some advice on my current situation. I started binge watching your show about 3 weeks ago and decided, okay, because I want to buy a house soon. So I paid off all my credit cards. But the problem I'm having right now is I have a car I spent way too much on last year, and I bought it brand new because I drive about 100-mile round trip. So I spent $52,000 on my car.
Wow.
And it's about an $836 payment. And I was thinking, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and pay this off because the value has already decreased to like $38,000 when I looked it up on Kelley Blue Book. So what I wanted advice on was I have about $20,000 in my savings.
Good.
And I put my 401k on hold just last week. Because I had about 15% going in there. I'm 25 years old. I got 40K in there, which I want to use for a house. This year I'll make between 120 and 150.
Excellent. Okay, so the balance on the car is what?
The balance on the car is about $47,000 because I just bought it in September of last year.
Gotcha. So you throw 20 at it, and that leaves us with 27, and you make 100 and some change, and you pay it off in a year, right?
Yeah, so that's what my question was, because I was thinking of keeping like $10,000 in my savings.
No, you need to get rid of this car.
Okay.
You're broke, man. $800.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's horrible. I'd be freaking out.
Yeah, and I realized, watching your show, and then I started paying off my credit card, and I was like, you know what? If I want to buy a house, I'm going to have a mortgage payment and an $800 car payment.
No, you're not doing that.
Realistic in California.
I'll come to California and box your ears. You're not doing that. No, you're too smart to do that. Let me tell you where you're struggling. Okay, you've learned all of this information and implemented all of this in a very short period of time. Your intellect went way ahead and left your emotions behind.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you understood this intellectually, and you went like ding, 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 and you start doing it, and then you're kind of like getting a little bit of emotional whiplash because this has all happened in a relatively short period of time. Agreed?
Yeah, and you know what? Watching your show helps me out so much because a lot of this stuff is stuff that my parents are very frugal, and they taught me all this stuff. And
they were freaking out when you bought this $52,000 car.
Yeah, but they let me make my mistakes.
Well, yeah, you're a grown man, and that stupid's not illegal.
And you explained it to them in a good way why you needed this one too.
Yeah, 100 miles a week, which means I'm going to destroy the value faster.
That was me justifying it in my head.
Yeah,
but I knew it was stupid when I was doing it.
Yeah, I heard you.
But you made me realize how stupid it is when I started watching your show.
I think you're smart, and I think you're going to turn this around. It's just the reason you're saying, but I'm going to keep the $10,000 is not because you intellectually don't see how this is all going to pan out. It's because you've done it all in a very short period of time, and you went from way over here in the land of stupid to rushing over into the land of the wise, and you got a little whiplash doing it emotionally. It takes your emotions a little time to catch up. So give yourself permission to go, this feels weird, but I'm going to do it anyway.
And you feel exposed when you get down to that $1,000, and I think that's the point, right?
Yeah.
We want you running.
Well, and we want all that money thrown at this stupid car to get rid of this debt. So,
but when somebody binge watches Dave, they realize, oh gosh, I'm not safe, and they immediately want to get safe now.
Yeah.
And so I get that impulse. I got to hang on to this.
And let me tell you the other thing. Those of you out there that are, you've been broke for 20 years, living paycheck to paycheck. And you work through this stuff, and you work your butt off, and you're Gazelle Intense for 3 years, and then you're debt-free, and you don't have any payments. And then you start actually getting some money, and then you look up and you go, dadgum, I have several $100,000, and I have no debt. There's another thing that happens is your emotions are still back there when you were broke.
Yeah.
And it feels weird to be able to buy a $10,000 thing and just write a check for it, and it's not a big deal.
Yeah,
mathematically, intellectually, but your emotions are like, back there when you were broke.
Right. So you got to heal along the way, too.
Yeah. I mean, we spend more on copier paper and coffee here than I used to make.
Right.
In this building. I mean, I have 1,000 employees. But when I look down at that number and I see
your heart stops.
Numbers going through, I'm like, I'm that little 28-year-old guy that's back there broke 30 years ago. I'm like, crap!
Yes.
We spent what on coffee? You know, it's like, oh, it's a lot of coffee.
So
you know,
the last time I bought a new car when I was an idiot was a long time ago. I went to we're looking at buying my wife a new car or a used car, and
new to her.
I thought, when did the prices go up? And she was like, 25 years ago. Right? But yeah, it's that same. They want what for a used car?
Yeah. But as you move away from one set of financial values and operating in one financial reality, and you move into another one, your intellect often goes before your emotions.
Almost always.
And then it's like later on. So I have to look down at the coffee bill and go, okay, this company did bring in $350 million, so we can probably cover this coffee bill. You know, so shut up, you little whining boy.
Yes.
But on the other hand, I look at that number and it still activates those old emotions. And so that tells me that still today, my emotions have not caught up with the intellectual activities required to run a $350 million company.
And it may never. It may.
Well, every time they do, the company grows. So I can't keep up.
That's right. That's right.
I can't keep. The same thing with me. You know, Sharon and I were looking at buying something last night, and she goes, "I want to get this, and I'm going to spend a lot of money." And then she told me how much it was, and I went, "That is not a lot of money, you little goob. Buy it."
But that 9-year-old little girl from East Tennessee is still like,
well, the one that was terrified and didn't think we'd ever be able to fill up her grocery basket again in the grocery store.
Yeah.
And now can and not think about it. But she's like, "That's a lot of money." She's like a mischievous, like she's doing something wrong. I'm like, "Honey, put 2 zeros on it and we'll call it a lot of money."
Man,
it's not a lot of money.
I think, Dave, that is so wise that whether it's your marriage, whether it's your kids, whether it's you're in a new stage with your money, to always just pause, have some built-in pauses to go, whew. Here's a conversation we were having upstairs. We're working on this new book. We say here, if you're not growing, you're dying. And I asked the team, it just hit me like a lightning bolt. What does growing mean to you? What does growing mean to you? And they were saying, intellectual stimulation and exercise plan and a good morning routine and reading and spiritual growth and all these things. And Dave, it occurred to me in this conversation, this is just yesterday, by the way, so I'm still processing it, but when you go lift weights, you're actually tearing your muscles down. It's when you rest that the growth happens.
Yep.
And so it's both and, right?
Yep.
It's crushing it and reflection. Yeah. And so it's gazelle intense and I'm in a new stage here.
You are busting the lactic acid, man.
Yeah. I'm in a new stage and a new stage and a new stage.
And there's the pruning that causes growth.
Yeah.
And man, it's always a breakdown to build up.
Always. And when you read that hard book or have that hard class, it's at night when you sleep. That's when the neurons grow. That's when the growth happens, right? And so it goes back to, it's both and.
Maybe I should sleep more.
I'll always tell you that, yes. But I love this gazelle. And hey, don't forget to be reflective and realize, hey, you're safe now. You're safe now. And now we're going to start working about giving and building, and it's just keep make sure your head and your heart stay connected through this whole process, man.
Yeah, that's so Jack, all of that rant to say that for everybody else out there listening, what you're going through is normal.
Yeah,
it's a normal part of the process for your emotions to catch up with your intellect. Take the whole 20,000 down to 1,000. Work the baby steps like you heard when you were binging, and let's get that car paid off and get that debt out of your life. And the good news is, you can look back when you're 54 and go, one of the dumbest things I ever did was back when I was 24.
I bought a $50,000 car
when I was 24, and you can look back. This could, you may have gotten the dumbest thing out of the way.
I wish I'd gotten the dumbest thing when I was 24.
You may have already checked that list box. The dumbest thing you're ever going to do could already be on the list.
That's a win.
That's a pretty cool
That's a life win.
That's a good way to think about it.
And at the end of the day, you end up with a $50,000 paid-off car. That's not a bad...
Not a bad way to end the dumbest thing.
Consolation prize.
This is The Ramsey Show.